March 12th, 2026 Conservation Commission meeting. We'll get started at 7 p.m. and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we do roll call. Maybe we'll just go around the room. Start maybe with you, Emma. Just say your name and say here.
Yeah, Emma
Just say
Ward here. Elizabeth Dudley here.
Mikhail Zodek here.
Brian Ward here.
Ellen Snyder here.
Colin Lawson here.
Andrea Fry here.
Okay, so we have a bunch of people that couldn't make it tonight, so we can appoint, I think, Colin, you're a regular member, I'm a regular member, voting member, so Mikhail, Elizabeth, and Andrea will appoint you as voting members.
Right.
So we have a 5 voting member quorum. Great, thank you. Any public comments? Lindsay will be on the program later, so I don't see any public, so we'll move along. Approved meeting minutes of February 12th, 2026. I wasn't here, but I did read them and they looked fine.
I can make a motion to
Okay.
approve the minutes as
Okay,
written.
great. Now we have a second.
I wasn't here either.
Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion, changes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Okay, treasurer's report. I will do that. Let me get my stuff up here. Okay, so as of March 4th, the conservation fund balance is $151,395.95. And the Richard Shanda Fund is $2,184.99. Let's see, so we got interest, as usual. Here. The only thing I realized, because I was away last month, so in January we approved $3,100 for the Dearborn survey, so I neglected to put that under approved to be spent, so we'll just add that, and that'll go on next month. And I think he's going to, Scott Boudreau is doing that survey, and I assume he'll get to that March or April, but I'll keep you posted on that. Otherwise, we don't, I have some requests a little bit later in the meeting, but we'll hold off on that. And then for the general fund, page, wrong way, sorry, double-sided here. Okay. The general fund balance is $3,468.73, and the only expenditure was for part-time salary for Ellen's time. Any questions on the budget? All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll do that later. Okay, so we are going to move on to Shanda Park. As you recall, last month or the month before, we started talking about transferring responsibilities for maintenance and management of Shanda Park to the town. And so we have a draft resolution that actually I worked on with Bart, our town planner. And if you had time, if you haven't had time, if you can turn, I think I passed out. Does everybody have a copy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your copy, maybe you can, I think we might be out of copies.
Oh, yeah, you have it.
Yeah,
You can
extra?
share if you want.
Okay.
See, this is-
So maybe take, why don't you take 5 minutes and read through if you haven't had a chance to,
Do you have a copy of this? I think I took 3 by
I
mistake.
read
I read half of by mistake. That's okay. I also have it on my phone.
So why don't I'll read through it as well, since you've had a chance to look through it, but I'll read it for the record, and we can discuss, have more discussion about it and see if you have thoughts about it. So this would be a Town of Newmarket, New Hampshire, by the Newmarket Town Council Resolution 2026- whatever the number would be. A resolution relating to the maintenance and improvement of the Richard Shanda Conservation Park, quote, Shanda Park, on the Lamprey River next to the town boat launch. Whereas the town acquired the lands that make up Shanda Park in the 1980s with funds from the Federal and State Land and Water Conservation Fund, LWCF, and private donations with project coordination by the Newmarket Community Development Corporation, and was then known as the Waterfront Park. And whereas in Resolution 2005-06, at the request of the Conservation Commission, the Town Council bestowed on the Conservation Commission the long-term maintenance and improvement of the Waterfront Park, including review and approval of use permits. And whereas the Conservation Commission is a volunteer board, and since 2005 has assumed responsibilities for numerous other conservation areas and monitoring conservation easements, among other responsibilities. And whereas it is in the interests of the town to develop a comprehensive vision and plan for the improvement and stewardship of the riverfront for public enjoyment and to protect shoreline habitat and ensure long-term sustainability. And whereas the Conservation Commission recommends that the stewardship of Shanda Park be restored to the town of Newmarket through its departments and a Citizen Riverfront Advisory Board, and will convey the balance of the Shanda Park Fund to the town for this purpose. Now therefore be it resolved that Newmarket Town Council does hereby ordain that from this day forward the Richard Shanda Conservation Park shall be maintained by the Department of Public Works as a waterfront park with usage and permitting determined by the Town Council with input from the Riverfront Advisory Committee or its successor. So this is a draft resolution that we're recommending to the Town Council, and they would review it and revise it and so forth as needed. So, questions, thoughts, comments?
Well, I think it's not explicitly stated that, or is it? When I just first read this before, I didn't see it explicitly stated that other than to protect the shoreline habitat, what the purpose of the park is. I mean, do we want to have more than protect shoreline habitat in terms of encouraging, natural wildlife, or is that sort of implied in protecting shoreline habitat? That's the only mention of, of wildlife or natural resources that I see, but maybe I'm missing something. But I did. So I don't know if that should be emphasized further.
We could add it. I think it's, we ourselves have never developed a management plan for the park, so we don't have really any of the guidelines, except that we think it's important to protect the shore and the habitat.
Okay, so when you say shoreline habitat, that implies also the wildlife there, not just the natural fauna. I mean, it's flora and fauna. It's not just flora or prevent erosion, etc. It's also, we want to maintain it for the, the otters and things that we see in the river.
I think it's implied in that, but we could add wildlife to it. It wouldn't hurt to have shoreline wildlife and add the word wildlife in there. I think that would be fine.
Well, you're the wildlife biologist, but
I mean, I think it's fine to say. We can add that.
Right. I just want, because it's also, it's a beautiful resource. I mean, it's also an entertainment resource, but as on the Conservation Commission, we want to emphasize the natural resource and the natural wildlife. And
should we say fish and wildlife? Because a lot of it is about protecting the fisheries and
yes.
water.
If other people think it's a good idea.
So maybe we could say in that 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth whereas, it would say for public enjoyment and to protect fish and wildlife and shoreline habitat. Does that sound?
And the natural resources maybe of the...
And other natural resources?
Yes, I think so, because, we all voted positively for a lot of stormwater improvements, so that will help that, but I think we want to make sure that that is managed to limit pollutants coming off the streets, et cetera,
Mhm.
into the water. I don't know if that should be stated also. Because right now, as I mentioned before, I think all the pollutants from the, the first
Mhm.
flush of a storm cleaning the streets goes directly into
Mhm.
the river.
How about after other natural resources, we also then have says comma, water quality?
Okay,
And
yes.
then it goes
okay.
on to say and ensure long-term sustainability.
Yeah, I think that would be, I would be happy with that.
Good. Does that sound good to
Good point.
everybody?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like it. And did I miss public access, the continuation of public access?
Yeah, so we have the stewardship of the riverfront for public enjoyment. We could say an access, because access has kind of been an issue. Do you want to say enjoyment and
Yeah.
access?
Yeah, I think we want to really make
Mhm.
sure that's a solid piece
Right.
that people can, I mean, it would be assumed, but
Mhm.
stated, I think it makes it
Mhm.
very clear.
Good.
I think that's a good idea too, since a lot of the development has maybe like 90% of the actual linear access to that park, and people who aren't part of that development cannot go through that area. So
Apparently, yeah.
I don't think it's overstating it to emphasize.
Yeah, good.
Mhm.
Good. So the way this would work is that Bart, our town planner, would, they write a, what's it called? There's a memo that goes with it. There's a certain name.
Staff report.
Staff report. It would go with this resolution to the town council, and in the staff report, it would include maybe some other additional background that we've talked about in terms of Shanda Park, and so a little bit more of the history. We wanted to keep this a little bit, cleaner in terms of the process, but there would be a staff report, and Bart has a lot of that information, and we could work with him on that report. So the next step would go, I'll modify this, and if we approve it, excuse me, tonight, it would then go to Bart, and he would put it together with a staff report to the council. Is that right?
Yeah. But Bart feels the town will pretty easily take that over.
Yeah, I think that conversation has been discussed, am I understanding?
This has been something I know that's been discussed on and off before, so I don't think Amy over at REC has any issue, with another part.
Yeah.
So one of the things that came up last time, because my ears kind of picked up at this, if we wanted, to have a member there, I'd be happy to volunteer as a rep from the Conservation Commission, if it's necessary, if it is happening, just to kind of keep our toe in the water, so to speak. We
That would-
talked about it.
I believe that would fall under REC. You would just have to talk, because basically it's not like the town's running what the REC department does with these parks, the REC department does, so you just have to talk to Amy and say, hey, I would like to be involved, or one of us would have to be involved. Or just ask, so basically, I don't see any issue with it. It's just that you would be speaking with the rec department to maybe keep your toe in the water when it comes to Shanda Park or any other rec areas that abut or deal with conservation areas.
Okay.
That would be, I would say, if you're going to do something like that, rather than just be for Shanda Park, maybe just, if there's any other recreation areas that are near or abutting or something to conservation area, then maybe just a person on and to communicate with the rec.
I was under misapprehension then that there was a riverfront advisory committee.
Oh, yes, no,
in-
there is.
Yeah, and that's maybe what I was
Oh, yeah,
referring
then-
to.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so there was a first reading at the council, so they are going to expand the Riverfront Advisory Committee, to rename it or not, I can't remember. And so we'll have more
yes.
members, right?
They're changing it from ad hoc because it's not ad hoc, and we're planning to keep it
So it's a-
forever.
be a standing
because
committee?
the riverfront's going to be there forever, so it didn't
Right.
make sense for it to be an ad hoc.
So it will be a bigger committee, and we will have a rep on that
Okay,
committee.
oh,
So
maybe
you will
that's
have
what
an
I'm
opportunity to be
referring to.
appointed to that if that's your interest. So we would do that either in April or whenever this goes through.
Okay, sounds
So,
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Or someone else may want to do
Yeah.
it. I just.
And I don't quite know if the town has worked out if it's DPW or rec, or I think it's a partnership,
Yeah.
maybe in terms of the maintenance and, yeah. Thank you, Lindsay.
Lindsay Butler, town engineer, part of the
Oh,
Um,
nice.
The rec department would be more responsible for managing like the permits for use of the park and coordinating that kind of stuff, and stuff like that, but DPW building and ground would be responsible for those some of the general activities they do for a lot of the rec facilities. It would be a partnership with the parks.
me if it's needed. Maybe we can-
No, I think we definitely want a rep, because that was one of the things we talked about for sure, is we wanted to continue to have a rep. And right now, Sam Kenny is our rep because it's a small committee and he's the chair of the committee, so we haven't wanted to replace him because then he wouldn't be on the committee anymore. So this will enable us to, Sam's to stay there as the chair, as an at large, and then we would then have a new rep for that committee. So if you're interested or other, we'll get to that point. We will
Okay, thank you.
participate. Whoever would like to.
Great.
Okay, if there are no other changes, if we're willing to make a motion to approve as amended.
I motion to approve as amended and discussed.
And I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, so I'll send this to Bard and then we'll talk to you about next steps for council. Great. I think this is a good move. We do have that small amount of money that's in the Shanda Park, and that would transfer to DPW. I'm not sure where they would want to put it, but they'll figure that out. But great. So we'll probably come back with something in the next meeting in terms of where it's going. Awesome. Great. Okay. Next up is the Ash Swamp Road project, Turtle Crossing project update, and Lindsay is going to tell us about that. And there was a memo in your packet if you had a chance to see that.
Thank you, Ellen. Yes, Lindsay Butler, town engineer, again. So I wrote up that brief project narrative and gave to Ellen so you guys could have that in your packet for reference, just kind of short, trying to be as short as possible on summary of where we're at with this project. But I'm not necessarily going to read it verbatim because the intention of that was just in case I couldn't be here in person. But I'm here, so... The Ash Swamp Road Culvert Replacement Project has been a project that's been in the works kind of from two different perspectives for several years. The conservation and wildlife protection perspective, there's been a lot of turtle monitoring and research that's been done for that crossing specifically, and it's been identified as a high risk for turtle mortality, high risk location for an upgrade. And from the DPW perspective, it's a double barrel culvert. What exists there now is a double barrel culvert, which means it's two pipes in tandem that are relatively small and they get clogged often. So it's a maintenance headache for the town, and the wetland area adjacent to it is, there's not a lot of elevation separation there, so it's a flood risk. So because we have those two priorities driving a need for an upgrade there, we were able to develop a pretty good partnership with the Conservation Commission, with the Nature Conservancy, with New Hampshire Fish and Game and New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services and UNH researchers to put our heads together on coming up with a solution for upgrading that infrastructure at that site. So we received a grant from the Nature Conservancy to proceed with pre-construction activities. So that was a lot of the site survey, topographic survey, geotechnical explorations, natural resource delineation, and preliminary evaluation of the site and preliminary design. And we have gotten through all of that at this point, which got us to that. Actually, we kind of wrapped that up over the summer. And then we're in a bit of a holding pattern while we waited for federal funding. The New Hampshire Fish and Game Department applied for federal grant funding for a larger habitat connectivity project that they want to pursue for the state, which incorporates upgrades at 4 different crossings in different communities. One of them is the Ash Swamp Road project. So that federal funding has come through now, and New Hampshire Fish and Game is receiving their grant to proceed and upgrade those 4 crossings. So for the past few months, we've been kind of re-engaging with project partners and ironing out the details on the grant agreement. And we actually just on Friday have our grant agreement that's been approved by Governor and Council, and we're ready to sign that and get started. And that will provide the funding for completing the design, proceeding with permitting, and covering construction. So we'll be able to do the full implementation of the project. And I think there's also a period of post-construction monitoring that's incorporated in that New Hampshire Fish and Game is going to be managing. So all of that will be part of this that we're rolling into, and we're at a good spot with the pre-construction activities being complete to kind of roll right into advancing utility coordination, easement discussions, and submitting permit applications. So,
It's fantastic.
yes,
So exciting.
it is very exciting. It's a great project to be involved in.
Do you have a timeline that we anticipate for construction?
Yes. Tentative timeline is we can work through the easement coordination, permitting, final design over the next calendar year and be ready with permits in hand and prepared for construction next season. Would likely be late summer so we can get the low flow time frame. And yeah, we'd be looking at probably the August to October-ish of 27 for construction.
Great.
And
Congratulations.
The grant is has some time flexibility in it because Fish and Game is working on these 4 crossings and they're at various stages of advancement. So the grant funding is available through 29. I think it's December of 2029. So if for some reason we get hung up a little bit getting through that and it gets pushed, there's still some availability in the grant agreement to do that. But we're going to target 2027. And DPW the town is required to provide a match for this project, and DPW is very excited to provide in-kind services. So DPW staff would be kind of serving as the general contractor for the project. There will be some subs that have specialty construction of retaining wall and like the construction and installation of the culvert structure itself will probably be subcontractor coordination, but DPW will be able to do a lot of the primary services ourselves, and the crew is very excited to be able to do that.
That's great. Will we have a chance to look at the design at some point?
Yes, we have the preliminary design. We've been having some internal discussions among DPW staff and the engineering firm to kind of modify a couple of alternative components to it. So we haven't released it out to the public yet, but we have design plans that are ready to go. Once we have some of those easement discussions with abutters, we'll be ready to share more information and have some determinations on a few of those alternative components.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
a big process.
Yeah.
So even though it's a small amount, we're contributing $5,000 cash match as part of that match. And,
Yes.
some of that fundraising we're doing through TurtleFest.
Great.
So it's a nice, even though it's small, it's an important project, and it's nice to be able to contribute a little bit
Yeah.
as part of that match. We had talked about, some sort of video during, and post to capture this whole project, and I think that's on the radar. It's on the radar?
Yes. Yeah, to make some arrangements for that so we can get some
Very good.
pre-construction imagery.
No.
Yep. And also, another recent heads up, New Hampshire Fish and Game is going to be putting out a press release to announce this because it is a very exciting project and they're working with various communities on this. They have that drafted and I think they're looking to issue that next week. So once that information is out to the public and they make that announcement, I'll be sure to share it so that we can share it through our New Hampshire Newmarket communication channels and spread the word there as well.
And also, Lindsay will be a star at TurtleFest explaining this whole project, so it's going to be very exciting. It's a great project.
It
Any
is,
more
yeah.
questions for Lindsay?
I'm just curious, how much do you have to raise the road? That seems like that would be expensive. But,
That's a good question. It can be expensive. We are looking at raising the road. It doesn't have to be raised for the full length we need to raise the section where the culvert structure is, and some of that is to accommodate the larger culvert structure and provide some separation to the wetland, and some of that is actually to sort of smooth out the hill, because when you're coming from 108 from the east, you kind of go up and over the hill and it comes down abruptly to where the culvert is. So we want to make some adjustments with that so the road, it meets current roadway design safety standards and flattens that out a little bit. It hopefully won't necessarily increase speeds out there, because we don't want any of that happening, but it should make it a little less risky coming up over that hill. So it's going to be kind of from the hill and where that culvert is, because it's closer to the hillside, and then it will kind of taper off as it heads further to the west. The average fill is about 2 feet in that section, and then it'll be like only a couple of inches as it gets further away from the culvert.
It's quite a big project then.
It is a big project, yes. It's going to be a much bigger structure that will exist there.
Lindsay, so it'll be at least 2 turtle crossing seasons before the project is implemented. Are we doing anything in addition this year again, or the same? Will there be signs again and that
Yes.
sort of thing? Do you know?
We've discussed, I don't think we're necessarily going to redo the paint that's there, because it's still visible, but that may be an option too, that we refresh the paint this year so it'll last through next season, and then the message boards, as long as they're not tied up with something else specifically, we could place at least the one that was on the eastern side. There was enough of a shoulder space there that we could put that back in and keep that up for the May to July timeframe.
And also, potentially, would the police sort of think about that, and, in terms of regulating speed there towards that area? Maybe we could get some spot checking or something? I don't know, maybe that's a lot to ask.
They do already.
Okay.
They know that that's an area that we commonly see some high rates of speed. So one of the things we can coordinate with them too is the location of their speed radar signs. That we did that when the pavement markings went out, because they do traffic counting as well as capturing the speed data, and they do help to deter and help people slow down. So
Maybe employ one of those signs that says, this is your speed. Maybe it's an appropriate allocation of town resources for one of those speeds that says you are traveling this and you should be traveling that. I mean, just during the
Turtle
season of
cross-
concern,
right.
the turtle crossing.
yep,
Potentially.
PD has done that before, so we can talk to them about doing that again.
Lindsay, I have a question. What do you anticipate the construction window to be?
That's another good question. We would hope for not more than 2 months, ideally, with the precast structure. Hopefully we can stick to that. But that may vary as we get into the final design components. I would say not more than 3 months. Ideally closer to 2.
I've been involved with a lot of construction like that, and you don't know until you start digging in there
Right.
what you're going to run into. So, yeah, but anticipating that 3 months is really a good window.
Yep.
And the road will have to be redirected, obviously, and there's no work around that, so.
Yeah, it would require a road closure, similar to what we had to do when we did the bridge rehab a little further down on Ash Swamp.
Yeah. And maybe a good, awareness campaign for townspeople would be really beneficial too.
And neighboring townspeople.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Awesome. Very good.
Awesome job.
Yeah. Any other questions, Lindsay?
Well, since it is quite a substantial culvert, I know I asked this question at another meeting, but since we're going maybe bigger this time, what other wildlife do you think might take advantage of this culvert?
I think a lot of smaller wildlife.
That's great.
Hopefully beaver will just go through it and not be, it'll be big
Oh,
enough that it won't
habitated.
be attractive to them. But also, other,
Like mink and otter, all the.
Yeah.
all the
Those
stelads
great.
and- yeah.
Do you think birds
Raccoons.
would go through it? Do you think
Birds?
any water? Birds?
probably not.
Probably not, I can't think of, I mean,
Any
some
water
little ones
birds?
might.
Yeah.
but-
Fly over it.
Now, we're not doing any lighting, right, on the road? It's gonna be dark
Correct.
all the way through?
No
Do you
lighting.
think there'll be enough light?
Yep. The openness ratio is sufficient, and it's designed to have sort of a reconstructed stream in it with terrestrial shelves. So there'll be like a 2-foot walkway, I guess, on either side of the stream channel through the culvert. So that's where a lot of the turtles and smaller wildlife will be able to cross through safely and not have to be getting wet.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you. And I guess in terms of like high water flooding, does that occur with the turtle season crossing typically or not? It's more
Probably
spring
earlier,
that would,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, hard to know, right?
They would
You never know
avoid
when we have
that
storms,
again.
but usually they're
they can,
later.
do turtles swim?
Yeah.
Underwater
I'm sure they-
comfortably? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They hibernate underwater, so.
Yeah, I was just curious
Yeah.
if that was, if it would fill completely with water, then. But
Only
you've
in
designed it so there's always going to be some air there, probably.
there'll be fluctuation, but
Yes.
the base flow will be a smaller stream flow that will provide that hydraulic connectivity for the wetlands on either side. But then storm flows, there's enough of an open area that
For
when
that. Okay.
the water rises and
Yeah.
the storm flows are going through, it'll be able to pass.
Okay, I'm sure you thought of it. I was just curious how it works since
Yeah.
I didn't know. So thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, next up is our TurtleFest 2026 planning. So you have a flyer. This is a initial flyer, and if you look in the top right corner, so that's the
Nice.
design by John Herman. It's all done,
Beautiful.
and it's, I think, off at the printer for the t-shirts
Wow.
and bandanas. Awesome. Another thank you, John, for another beautiful artwork. So we're pretty well set. We adjusted sometimes a little bit. The Raptor Tailwinds folks wanted a little bit more time. It's essentially the same program, but we've just been juggling the times a little bit. And you'll see all the sponsors down below. So I want to thank all of our local businesses that are helping to sponsor. And we're going to add, I think we're adding 2 more. The Friends of the Library is funding New Hampshire Turtle Rescue to come to the library again with turtles during the week. So that'll be like can't remember, I forget what day it is, the week before Saturday. They'll be there again, so they're going to fund that. So we'll add them as a sponsor. And the Lamprey River Advisory Committee is donating a print by David Carroll, who is a noted author and turtle expert from Warner. Beautiful artist, and so they're donating a print. So we're going to do a raffle for that, and they're hoping to get a signature and some other stuff.
I
So
love
we
it.
might have some other things. If you can think of other things that would be nice to have as a raffle, because
Okay.
I think it would be nice to raise additional money for New Hampshire Turtle Rescue and for our contribution to the Ash Swamp Road project. So if we can think of some more additional raffle
Okay.
items, that would be great. We're pretty good for, we've got like 15 or so different organizations that are going to bring exhibits this year.
Oh,
So
great.
I think that's going to be
Wow.
really good, and we're great with sponsors. We've raised, I think the sponsors have raised $700, maybe $2,000 with the donations and friends, so we might be over $2,000 with donations. So, and that's not even counting our t-shirts. So hopefully the t-shirts will be ready to go for our next meeting, and we can start selling those. So hopefully we're going to need help on that Saturday, May 9th, to set up and sell t-shirts and be there. So hopefully people have that day in their calendar and they'll be able to join.
Unfortunately, I'm away
You're away.
on a trip that
Yeah, that's all right.
unfortunately.
But yeah, I think it's going to be great.
I had a question
Sure.
about the sponsorship. Was
Yeah.
that everybody coughing up the same amount, or was there?
More or less, yeah. We asked for $200. That's what we asked for last year from each sponsor.
Yeah,
And so we asked for that again. So pretty much, yes, everybody's
Yeah.
giving the same amount.
Great.
Seems like it was easiest to do it that way. The two new ones, so I can read them off. Boudreaux Land Surveying and Stake and Stones Land Surveying are both Newmarket surveying businesses. We've used both of them, worked with both of them for projects in Newmarket. Exeter Environmental is a new one this year. They do the phase 1 environmental assessments that we hire often to do those. The land trust do, the town does. Mighty Roots is a local green builder. Streamworks and Wright Pierce are working on the Asquamp Road project, so it's nice to have their support. West Environmental is Mark West. He's our wetlands guru.
great.
Nice to have him again.
Yeah.
And FB Environmental is another environmental consulting firm that they do really good work, and so it's nice to add them this year to the sponsorship. And Northeast Conservation Services is Pete Steckler, who we've talked about. He's does consulting on GIS and other natural resource things, so it's nice to have him on board as well.
Yeah, it's great if we can give them some good promo. for
Exactly, yep. So
Being a part of it.
it's nice to highlight them. And we're working on I think Jess is working on like a poster, like a concert poster that we'll be able to put up around town, so more of a jazzy thing that we can advertise. So this is all on, we have a web page on our website that was in your, I think I sent it out as an email. So you can refer people to that website. There's a little blurb, and then there's this flyer, and we'll add information once the t-shirts are ready to sell and all that kind of stuff.
Is the music at the Stone Church still happening?
So,
Did that not materialize?
so last year, the music was coordinated by the musician who works for Fish and Game and
Okay.
is with the band, and he worked it all out with the Stone Church because he's from Newmarket, and we weren't quite able to line that up yet.
Okay.
It may happen. If it does, we'll just sort of add it. It'd be something that they do, and we'll just
Okay,
tag
okay.
on. We had to get going with our
Right.
promotion, and we couldn't quite work it out. So
You
maybe
got a
there'll be
lot of
music.
response last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were up there.
No, I didn't.
We
no.
went up to eat there, and
Yeah.
it was just
Very
packed.
popular.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
maybe
great.
something we just say, we're gonna all meet there and celebrate, TurtleFest, but it's not directly on our program, at least right yet, so, yeah. All right, any other thoughts or questions about, if you can think of any raffle items,
So you're
Otherwise, we're good.
thinking of items that would be like over $100?
I think so, yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna be able to get a couple more, t-shirts from couple different other organizations, so I might bundle that as a one raffle item.
Okay.
I thought a rain barrel would be really great if we could get somebody to donate one. If anybody has a connection, but.
You can. We were looking into this for school. There's a couple different websites, and you can actually get them for free if you're a school organization, and a couple different ones. So I can look back and I can.
Oh, cool, that would be
email you some
awesome.
of
I
those.
think it would be a great raffle item
Yeah.
if we could get a rain barrel. It'd be perfect. I think it would fit really well with what we're doing.
Did the town used to sell them out
Yeah,
of the
I
DPW?
talked to the company. The company doesn't do that anymore. They don't do those community
Okay. I
rain
don't know if
barrel
there might be
programs.
some over there still.
Yeah. So you haven't heard of anybody that does doing rain barrel things, so. Yeah, but
What do you think about raffling off fishing gear?
sure, I think that would be.
I think there's
Yeah.
some people out there
Yeah,
that
yeah.
might be
Yeah.
convinced that could be good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
binoculars or something.
Yeah, binoculars and things
Yeah.
like that, even bundles and stuff. Yeah, I think that'd be great. And just a reminder that the library staff will be having a whole children's programs in the hallway, so that'll be for families that want to come and listen to the talks and have kids. They can be doing both things. And I think the live animals are going to be really cool.
Mhm.
So, good stuff. Awesome. All right. Anything else on TurtleFest right now?
For the coffee break, did
Yeah.
you need donations of like I remember there was a conversation about that two meetings ago.
Yeah, so
about
last year,
coffee.
yeah, Bart talked to Crack Skulls and she donated the coffee.
Oh, okay.
We did buy the food, so if you think there might be somebody who would donate like some food, that would be awesome.
Okay. I
Because
just
last
didn't
year we
know if
did
you
buy it
needed
ourselves.
that still. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Excellent. All right. All right, we have, let's move along. So new business, I wanted to bring up something that came up before, I wasn't here in February, so it came up before yeah. And it was a short-term thing. So the town of Epping has, well, it's actually a private business, Resource, let me get the words right, Resource Waste Services, which is an existing business. If you know where the raceway, this is not the dragway, this is the raceway. Right? Yeah. I get it mixed up. No, this is the dragway. Is this the raceway or the dragway?
New England Dragway.
New England Dragway.
Yeah.
So there's this Resource Waste Services has an existing disposal area for construction waste, but they have a permit into the town of Epping and to DES to expand their facility, where you see that in yellow, and they want to be able to take municipal waste even from Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's terrible.
So if you look at where the Piscassic River is, so this created some alarms among the neighboring towns because it wasn't really shared with other towns that this was happening, and so the town of Newfields, the town of Durham, I wrote a letter, town of Exeter, the Lamprey Advisory Committee, Conservation Law Foundation have all submitted letters, and the Southeast Land Trust, because the Southeast Land Trust owns the land across the Piscassic River. Wrote letters of concern because, one, it wasn't really made public and there wasn't an opportunity for the greater region to provide input. And so lots of people provided comment, mainly of concern about the municipal waste coming in and what that might do if there's some issues in terms of water quality impacts, waste blowing around. It's a very ecologically significant area. So anyway, so those letters were submitted. My understanding is the permit is at DES and they're going to respond by April 12th or something. It's not clear. The town of Epping supports it, is my understanding, because they think it'll bring additional funding to the town and reduce potentially their waste cost for waste disposal. What the surrounding towns and the entities are asking for is to become a regional impact project, so that would allow more opportunity for regional towns and the Rockingham Planning Commission to actually provide more input. That's kind of all I know. I just wanted to, in your packet is the letter from LRAC, and there's the letter that I submitted. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, and have a bigger, so it's kind of hard to see, but the project area is down here, and you see that, so the Piscassic Greenway, so that you can sort of see the Piscassic River flowing, and so it's just upstream of basically conservation land and Newmarket and Newfields. Yeah.
Well, also to emphasize, it's also seems like a large linear access area for wildlife crossing through those woods, etc., and that would be a huge habitat loss, special habitat loss for because it's along the water, in addition to everything else, in addition to microplastics, etc., that you mentioned in the letter. It's terrible loss of habitat access, but what actually could be done to stop it? I mean, what does a comment mean, not knowing much at all about the influence of with these letters? What does that mean? I mean,
I think the idea was to raise concern with the town of Epping that, there's real concern about, or maybe there needs to be some, nobody really knows, like, how are they going to do the construction? Like, really, what are they going to be bringing in terms of materials and the traffic? And so it's not necessarily everybody saying don't do it. I mean, most people think it's not a great location for this particular thing, but the idea is there should be more time for input and conversation with the business that's going to do this.
I mean, is there any, as the expression goes, any teeth in it? If all the surrounding towns are really don't like this idea, is there any, or can Lamprey River Advisory, Elric, I mean, don't they have some power to?
Most of it's, a lot of it's advisory, and it's sort of advisory to DES because they do the permitting.
So, I mean, I guess I'm just curious, how much would DES take into account all this work that you've done and others, and what power do we have really to suggest that they put it on different land?
Yeah, I think one of the thoughts is if it keeps moving forward and they start getting permits, is to maybe see if this Resource Waste Services would be willing to have a public meeting and hear from people and to say what the concerns are, and maybe they would adjust
The location.
Just the location or the size or what materials they're going to bring.
Well, I read
Yeah.
through, there was a link that I found through Seacoast Online of the whole permit. You could read the whole application, and it seemed like, I'm not sure, it just seemed like they weren't gonna be taking in hazardous waste. It seemed like they were more interested in like recycling construction material, which I think is what they sort of already do over there. But the whole permit did say that there's 2 bat species, one threatened, one endangered, that are within that area, and potentially monarch butterflies, which I think are threatened or potentially becoming threatened, I forget which. But that whole corridor, I mean, beyond that blue is protected, I thought protected habitat, because it's like a tier 1 river system there. So I don't have a lot of experience making sense of all these things, but it did say that within a quarter mile of the buffer is a designated, river, and it's tier 1, the highest ranking habitat in New Hampshire. So it is kind of surprising that they can basically put a
Yeah.
garbage dump where that oval is.
Yeah, I think that's the concern. The Piscastic River got the highest water quality in the whole Lamprey River system, and so, again, the question is, it's hard to know what they're actually going to do, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to know what construction they're going to do. It's hard to know exactly what materials they want to bring in, and so that's why the alarms are like, okay, what is this project going to entail? And it's not in a great location. And I think one of the things that I think what's happening is that because it seems like they might be just adding kinds of material that they're already doing, and so
Yeah.
it's a question of whether this is a new permit or whether they're just modifying their existing permit that they already have for the work they do there. So that's why it's a little bit of gray area about what's actually happening.
I'm surprised, I would be shocked, wouldn't you, if DS approved it?
Hard to know. I mean, they can't sort of go on their own. They have to have legal reasoning for why they don't approve it. Now, it's not clear to me if the permit they're getting now, because there's other permits that they might need in terms of alteration of terrain, and that's when you start getting into the impacts of turtles and things like that. So the next permit may not be the last permit.
Yeah, the
I
permit
just
they
don't know.
submitted, they had done their due diligence and said that they were installing catch basins that don't drain into the river and various abatement methods to keep sort of runoff from entering the river. So, they are thinking about that. Whether that's enough, I don't know.
So we'll keep you posted, and if something comes up between now and the next meeting in terms of opportunity to go to any public meetings, we'll just send that information out,
That'd be
and you're
great.
free to participate. All right, next up, very exciting, land protection. Woo. So the Rosa project, thank you everybody in Newmarket who voted in favor of the warrant article. It passed overwhelmingly, which is very exciting. So that was $145,000, and so let me just get my notes about it. So we are very close to completing our fundraising. We just have one more grant. There's a Great Bay Resource Protection Partnership grant for land transactions. See you, Lindsay. So we can apply to them for project costs. So that's like the boundary survey, the environmental assessment, legal work, baseline documentation, all the things you do as part of the project. And so that is due April 15th. So I'm working with Ben Engel at Southeast Land Trust. He's helping me work through that grant application. It's about ready to go. Just have to tweak it. And what we're going to do is we need to get a little bit better numbers on the costs of these different things like the survey and the hazardous waste stuff. So I would like to get your permission, maybe we take a vote, to allow me and Bart, town staff, to get quotes and move forward if and when we need to on these, the due diligence basically for the Rosa project. So I don't know if we need to list them all, but it would be things like the boundary survey, title work, legal work, the hazardous waste assessment, and other associated documents. And these funds, we may, because a lot of the grants we got, I'm not sure if they're all like this, but a lot of them are going to be, we won't get them until we close, or we won't get them until, we've actually paid the invoice, so we'd have to sort of pay up front. And so we may have to pay out from the conservation fund, but the money would come back into the conservation fund once we get the reimbursement, so if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But very exciting, it looks like,
Yeah.
I think, and then Southeast Land Trust is pretty confident that we'll do well with the Great Bay Partnership grant application, so that would just leave us, depending on the cost, and that's why we need to sort of pin them down a little bit more, we'll be very close to our final number, so I think we're on track.
Remind me the final number.
It's around 400,000.
Yeah.
It's 325,600 for the acquisition, and then the project costs, there's some contingency in there, so it's about 70,000 for project costs. Because again, we're contributing some money to our forest stewardship fund, which is very important for us as a town, because we haven't done that before. So helping us steward these lands in perpetuity. So that's a really important part of this project cost.
Is there public access?
There will be public access in the back. It's currently slightly landlocked in terms of, we don't have a trail right to it at this point, but we
Yeah.
are looking, that's one of the, I'm going to talk to you about it a little bit later,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, or maybe next month. I'm going to write a grant to do a comprehensive plan for all of Falls Brook for the lands we own, and part of it will be to look at trail connectivity.
Oh, nice, okay.
So hopefully that will happen. I think we'll get that grant. And that'll happen like this year and into next year. So, and the Rosa property will now be part of that big complex.
And the Rosa property in total is how many acres?
The total is 40. There's 24 in Durham, and that's the part we're acquiring in fee, so the town would own it.
Yeah.
The 16 in Newmarket they'll retain ownership, and it'll just be a conservation easement. And it's mostly a hayfield and private cemetery, so we're not really expecting really public access to that piece.
Right.
So if you're willing, if we could make a
Yes.
motion to authorize the chair or me and town staff to work through the due diligence on the Rosa project.
I offer our confidence in your ability to negotiate a good price for all these services, so I make a motion to
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Great, all in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. Lots of good stuff happening
Yeah.
in Newmarket. It's very exciting. We didn't get a chance to talk to Lindsay, but the stormwater project that she's overseeing on Moody Point area is passed also overwhelmingly, and that's a really big project for protecting Great Bay. So it's really nice that the town folks supported that as well. All right, I'll get back to my agenda. Lost. Here we go. Okay, and then the Mitchell project, which is a very exciting project too. They've been working through just slow in terms of state and federal paperwork and process and staff changes and all kinds of stuff. Still on track, hopefully to close by June. And this is one where we're contributing some from the Conservation Fund and then the balance of the open space bond that was passed back in 2002. That'll close out that fund. So it'd be nice to get
Remind me where
that.
the Mitchell.
That's out on Bald Hill Road in the far western part, and so it's both sides of the road. Southeast Land Trust will own one with Fish and Game easement, and then Fish and Game will own the other one with its self easement. So the really amazing thing is they're selling the property, they're not keeping ownership of it, so it'll be owned by Fish and Game and or self. It's about
acreage?
160 acres, I think.
160.
Divided between the two, and it's got Bald Hill, which is the highest point in Newmarket. And it's very cool.
Now, is that oh gosh, what is it? The Hayden property that was acquired back in there?
Yeah, it abuts, so there's all kinds of land in Epping, Limperus. Southeast Land Trust has a lot of land out there. It abuts Hilton, which we hold a conservation easement on, and then it goes all the way back to it doesn't abut, but it connects all the way back to the Greenway, Piscasset Greenway. So really significant piece of land in Newmarket. It's cool. It's great. Lots of turtles out there. I see, Blanding's turtles and other turtles across Bald Hill Road, so it's a really important connectivity that will be maintained. It's nice. Okay, land stewardship. Sorry, we'll keep moving along. So Luke wasn't here, but we did, if you remember, we did a work day out at Falls Brook, Maston Road in the Pocket Park last fall. And Luke and I think we're going to host another one, maybe April 25th, if you want to pencil that in. I don't know if we've confirmed that with Luke, but so this is where we're doing some invasive removal, and it's just kind of overrun, but we had a great work day, and I think another one. And probably what we'll do is also go back there on May 22nd with the Newmarket Cares Day with high school students, because I think there'll be enough for actually 2 days, 2 work days, so that'll be perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a nice little spot.
Where's the Maston Road Pocket Park is right at the beginning
It's
of that
right at the
neighborhood?
beginning of the Maston Road, yeah, there's a little pull off there, and the trail's been kind of overgrown, so we're
Yeah.
clearing that out.
And what time do you guys usually meet up over at the?
Usually, for the April 25th, it's usually like 10 to noon,
Okay.
and then Newmarket Cares Day, we start early with that, right? 8:30?
Yeah, we're figuring out, typically in the past it's been 8:30, but we might move it up to 8.
Okay.
But there's also an afternoon session, so if we
Right.
want to do like noon to 2:30 instead,
Mhm.
I can send out the final times and we'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Yeah, we'll check on that. I think, I kind of like the mornings, but,
Yeah.
yeah, 8 to noon would be nice, or 8 to 11, to whatever time frame makes sense. That'd be great.
And what's the location again?
So, it's a corner of, so if you turn on Maston Drive, you know where that is, across from the old treatment plant?
Yeah.
It's just, you go across the brook, actually, and it's right there on the left. And there's a little pull-off. So that we own like, it's a very small pocket park. It's right along the confluence of the Piscassic and the Falls Brook.
And I'm sorry, what was the name of the park?
Well, I call it Falls Brook / Maston Road Pocket Park. It's got yeah, it's kind of complicated.
Sure.
That works.
Helen, do we have a map with these identified on a map? The properties?
We don't have we have a map, it's not sort of a public map, we haven't made it, we should at some point make a nice map.
Was there
Yeah.
one online a while ago?
We have one that, it doesn't label these small pocket parks.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
we should do that.
Is there need for those weed wrenches? I mean, if we've got the high school kids there.
So
Yeah,
what
strong.
we do is I usually get, we have access to this nature groupie Stewardship tool shed in Epping, and
Oh,
so I
okay.
bring all these tools.
Okay.
So we usually use, we usually bring a couple weed wrenches, and then we
Okay.
have other diggers and road hose.
Because I know we've got them from the place in Stratham.
Yeah, they
in the
moved them
past.
all to the
Oh, okay.
Seltz Stewardship tool shed. Okay, great. Okay, so there's I have suggestions for 2 stewardship projects besides that. So the Wigan Farm Conservation Area out on Grant Road. The management plan, there's a management plan for that was done when we acquired the property. And then we did an update. You're supposed to do an update every 10 years on management plans. So I did one for the Conservation Commission about 10 years ago. So it is now due for another update in 2026. But it's been quite a while since we acquired that property. And I think it would be nice, as part of this update, if we did a little bit more ecological investigation, like maybe see what wildlife is using the property, and maybe go back and look at the wetlands and see how they are, and get a little bit more detail. So what I suggest is that we do a little bit, I did a pretty simple update last time, but I think this would be a little bit more comprehensive. And so we have 2 grant sources that I think we can apply to cover the cost of this. One is the Great Bay Partnership has money for land acquisition in the transaction, so that's for the Rosa project. But they have a separate grant program that we applied to before for stewardship. So we can apply to them, and we can also, I haven't brought it up yet with Lamp River Advisory Committee, but they've done this before, so we've partnered, we got a grant from Great Bay Partnership, and then we get a match from LRAC. And so LRAC helped fund the Wigan Farm acquisition, and they helped fund our boardwalk rebuild. And so I think they would be supportive of this particular project as well. The application is due April 15th, like the other one. So I am working on that, and I'll probably have to submit it before I get a chance to share it out, but I just wanted to see if that sounds like a good idea. I know you don't have a lot of details about it, but essentially
It's an excellent idea.
I think it'll work well, and I've talked to at least one consultant who I think could do a really good job, and they're local. And,
Do we have a cost of it?
so it's probably around 15,000. So that includes, because I kind of scoped it a little bit. So that would include putting out wildlife cameras, maybe 3 or 4 wildlife cameras. So that's how people are capturing wildlife data these days. Field assessments, so they go out and they look at the wetlands and the habitats and kind of, do some updated descriptions and assessments. A set of maps, so a new set of maps of the property. So usually it's an aerial, topo, soils, key features, stewardship recommendations, trail map, that kind of stuff. And then I also suggested for that property that we do a story map. I don't know if you've seen story
Oh,
maps,
yeah,
but
love
they're
that
these
idea.
really nice online, like newspapers do them now, but they're really nice. It's like a scrolling, you have pictures and you have just a really nice story rather than somebody reading a management plan that some people feel could be a little bit dry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so they would do that, the consultant would do that too for us, and it would be on our town website.
And does that go into the history of the site a little?
Yeah,
Cultural
so it's
history?
kind of, we would provide, they would have stuff that they've gathered through their field work,
Okay.
but we could also provide input. Because there's already a lot of good information in the management plans that we already have for the property. And so this would just be a new way to show people. And my idea for this is that we do a story map for each of our conservation areas at some point. So this would be like a model,
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, I'd be happy to try to help with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I
If
think-
you'd like, I'm not sure exactly, but if you
Yeah, absolutely.
tell
I
me what
think-
I should do,
and-
I can.
Yeah, I think any of these will, as we move along, I think they're opportunities.
Is there a need to develop, I don't know if they're even still out there, but way back, sort of after the field part,
Mhm.
there's that woodland, there was some, I don't know, like signs about the wildlife and stuff on those wooden posts. Are those still out there?
Yeah, so we redid those about 5 years ago because
Okay.
they were pretty faded from
Yeah.
what the Eagle Scout had done, and so they're all pretty updated.
Okay. Oh,
Um,
that's good. Okay,
Yeah,
no, no,
so
no.
they're looking pretty good. And the boardwalk, I think, looks great. It's
Good.
working really well. Yeah, so that was great. Yeah, so maybe we'll take a motion. Again, we don't have to spend any money right now. Hopefully this is going to be funded through these grant applications. But if I could have a motion that it's okay to apply to a couple grant sources for the Wigan Farm Management Plan.
I can make a motion for that. I'd like to make a motion that Ellen apply on behalf of the Conservation Commission to seek grant funding to update the Wigan Farm habitats, I guess.
Management Plan.
Management plan, yeah.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second, Elizabeth. Any more discussion?
Great idea.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, and the next one is, I should have my maps here. So Falls Brook, we have the Rosa property, we have the Piscassic River Loisel Conservation Area, so we own that, we have the trails, and that connects to Audubon Trails. And then north of that, we have a bunch of other town-owned properties that we've never done anything with as a town. Some of them were waterworks properties, so originally we got drinking water from Falls Brook, and so back in the 20s, 30s, the town acquired those properties. And then we have a couple others. One we got as part of the subdivision out there, and two others we bought from our open space bond in 2002, well, it was after 2002. But they've just been sitting there. And so what I think we need to do is, we have an old management plan for Piscassic River Loisel. We need to do something with Rosa because we're just acquiring it, so we need to learn a little bit more about it. And we need to learn more about all these other properties. So my suggestion is that we do what's called a natural resource inventory. So again, we'd have a consultant go out, map the habitats and look at the forests and the wetlands and again, put cameras out. So that's one piece, and then create a series of maps again with all the information. And then there's this, part two is doing a trails analysis. So there's this tool that you may have heard of that Fish and Game came up with where you can assess all your existing trails, and you can do, you look at where all the important ecological areas, like really wet areas, and decide, like, we want to go have a trail from here to here. And that assessment can figure out, is there a good way to get there that would not harm the ecology? But the other part is that we actually do want people to get out and enjoy these places and see nature, and so it would weave those two together.
What was the name of the tool you mentioned? I didn't catch it.
It's called Trails for People and Wildlife.
And-
It's a GIS-based tool. There's there's a book, there's good information in the book, but essentially the analysis, you use GIS.
and
Some of
that's-
it's available.
Is that part of the wildlife action plan?
No, it's a little bit separate, but you can actually see it on, if you've ever used the New Hampshire Coastal Viewer, which is a public access GIS thing, you can pull it up on that.
Okay.
It's called a heat map.
Heat map.
So that, I also got sort of a quote for this, for the Falls Brook project. Again, it's around 15 to 16,000, and again, I think we can apply to the Great Bay Partnership again in April, because we can apply for more than one project. We could apply for this one as well. And again, because LRAC has provided a lot of money. They've provided $100,000 for the Rosa acquisition, so I think they would be pretty excited about this project as well. So similar to the last one, I would like to go ahead and apply to those grant sources for this project. Well,
I'll make a motion to go ahead and
Okay.
apply.
thank you. Second?
I'll
Second.
second.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Andrea?
You get the honor.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for doing all
Yeah,
that.
I've got
Yeah,
5
so
grants
Been
to write.
busy, wow.
I mean, if you
That's why
ever,
I'm not gonna be cheering.
I mean, I'm happy to help, with fact finding or something, if you need my help in researching
well,
or whatever, just let me know.
If anybody wants to
and-
review, they have to go in the next, probably within 2 weeks, but if anybody wants to actually review them, I'm happy to send them out and you can take a look at the grant.
I mean, in terms of, I'm happy to help as I can, I don't know
Yeah,
much
no.
about it. But if you want a overread or something, I
Yeah,
used to be an
absolutely.
editor,
No,
so,
that's really helpful. Yeah.
just, if you want someone to
Absolutely.
have a
I'd be
first
happy to
pass
do
at
that.
it.
Yeah, no, I think the more of us that look through
Okay.
things, so
Yeah.
that'll be great. Great, well, we'll go ahead with those.
That's awesome.
All right, finally, moving along to committee reports. Brian, Town Council.
Okay. There's been 2 meetings since we last met, but not too much happened. We had the dedication of the annual report. I'm sorry, everyone. I was at my mom's house, came here really quick, and I couldn't find my notebook, which is why I am not playing games or on the social. I'm taking notes and looking at stuff on here, just in case people see me on my phone. Anyways, so I have the town agenda up. Oh, this is big news. Alan Snyder and Colin Lawson were reappointed to the Conservation Commission at our last meeting. I wonder if they'll show up tonight. We had our dedication of the 2025 town report to Mike LeBranch. Let's see, I think that was, that was also where we voted to make the Riverfront Advisory Committee not ad hoc and add more people onto it. We also abolished the parking commission, and just so we can roll it into the public transportation commission, it didn't make sense to have a public transit committee and a parking, so we just rolled them together. And the only thing before that was that the town finally got control of a certain number of towns, sorry, not a certain number of towns, we conquered them. There were many roads in town, like parts of 108, Jerry Ave, that were owned by the state, which functionally didn't make sense because we were still taking care of it, and it was so after a lot of legal wrangling, we are now the town now actually owns the roads in all the roads in downtown. So,
That's great.
and yeah, otherwise it's been pretty light week. Last 2 meetings, so I'm all set.
Very good. Any questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian. Planning Board, Planning Department, we don't have anybody from there. I don't think I have any updates. I think they had a snow event, so they're working through the master plan chapters. I think that's their big activity. And we have not, if you're, sorry, go ahead.
I do have a question about that. I went to an info session about the form-based code.
Oh, yeah,
representing-
neighborhood gatherings. that they do.
Yeah, it's not a little thing, because, it's essentially saying that the town has a right, is maybe, enact its power to just do rezoning, which some of us may not want. And so it's pretty substantial, change.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure it's a top-down, or a ground, I doubt it's really a ground-up, move. I feel, that it's something that should be considered, because it could be dramatically different look for a lot of Newmarket. And I think could be quite a substantial build-out on existing properties.
Would you like to have a presentation? We haven't heard, we haven't talked about it here for quite a long time, like I think it's been a year. Would you like to have somebody come and talk more about it to the Conservation Commission? Do you think it's important to the Conservation Commission,
I
or
think it's important
just?
to the whole town. I think it could dramatically alter the look of it. I mean, I understand how the concept of cluster housing, et cetera, but I think it could be pretty dramatic, and would have potentially quite an effect on increased traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think maybe we should. I mean,
Or
I don't
feed
know
it
what other
back
people
through
think.
Jeff and then attend the planning board meetings where they talk about it. That might be the easiest way. Here would be just information, whereas there you can actually provide input back.
Okay, maybe,
planning board.
yeah, maybe I should somehow, see what's on the planning board agenda.
Yeah.
It's somewhat concerning for me, that I just feel almost as if there's like certain ideas, for increasing density here just seem kind of arbitrary. I'm not sure it would be for the Newmarket's general good.
Are they talking about just housing, or are they talking about like allowing mixing commercial and business in the residential?
I didn't get that. I get in the presentation, my takeaway is that, so instead of, let's say, having one house for 2 acres in areas that are zoned for 2 acres or 1.5 acres, et cetera, this would allow the town to put essentially 4 houses there that would be split in more dense areas. So you would have, let's say, 10 cars there instead of 2 cars, and then that much more traffic and that many more dogs, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that could really change the density for a lot of Newmarket. And they also have different sort of courtyard kind of planning of townhouses on other acres. So it's a way to, and I understand as a landscape architect, I understand the good things about planning, but I also feel that Newmarket doesn't want to necessarily have this overarching concept just sort of deposited on our town. And I guess I'm a little anxious about how they would decide what's appropriate in terms of number of houses, et cetera, for bigger lots, and how that could affect the town dramatically in terms of traffic. More roads would be widened, et cetera. I mean, we're not. Hopefully, we're not yet. We're not yet Newton, Mass, but
Or Portsmouth. Portsmouth is.
I wonder if a presentation would be possible.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think.
I
also think it's going to the planning board and providing input, because so few people do. People don't. I know they've been having the sessions, but in terms of actually going to the meeting where the planning board will be discussing zoning, is I think helpful.
I'm not sure from the conservation standpoint that we really have too much of a dog in the fight, I mean, if I want to build another house on my property and they zone that to be allowed, and it alleviates some of the housing crisis. I mean, the median house price in New Hampshire is like over $500,000 now, so I think that's the angle.
It is. It's just that if you already have a house on a certain land that was owned at a certain degree, I'm not sure everyone really wants to have the lack of control for their neighborhood that they've been in. It's sort of wresting that away from the people who live there and giving the power to the town in terms of what the neighborhood is going to look like. And I understand that development happens and it's good to design for that, but I think there's a marked difference between doing that going forward, offering cluster design housing, et cetera, on certain segments, but to go back and retroactively be able to change what has already existed, that to me is a different thing. I mean, I'm happy to let people choose what sort of environment they want to live in. But to take away that choice for people who have been living in certain areas already, take away that expectation, and in a way, I think, like unnecessarily. I think it's going to really change the town. It's not a little thing. It's a big thing. I just.
I don't think
was
they've
kind of-
voted on adopting any zoning changes yet. as I know
No,
that.
but I just think it's, I guess, something that I think we should all be aware of happening. And in terms of conservation, I think we do have input, because if you change the densities on, different parts of Newmarket, that's going to affect, a lot of natural resource aspects of that area.
Well,
So I don't know this plan particularly, but I know for farmland plan typically, the goal is to concentrate densities that can make sure you're keeping larger tracts of conservation.
I understand that's going for the future, but that's also, in terms of building out more, areas closer to the town, but we have the river going right through the town, but it makes sense, but I think again, I feel as if it should be something that doesn't happen retroactively. I think that's a danger of the process.
Zoning does change over time, that's the whole point of zoning.
It does, but it's a big change. It's a big change.
Well, yeah. Well, why don't we have, maybe we can have at the next meeting, I don't know what's on at the next meeting, but hopefully if Jeff and maybe, because Jeff's our rep to the planning board,
Oh,
and
okay.
also Bart could come and talk, give us just an update, just to let us know what's happening.
Sure. I just felt that when I went to the meeting, it was sort of a hired consultant who, had different objectives than we, the townspeople, had. I mean, it wasn't from someone within the town, it was someone outside of the town.
Well, they've been having neighborhood, like, throughout the town, so it'd be a
Yeah.
nice time for him to update what's happening, throughout town, what's his feedback been in terms of, where our interest is, open
Yeah, I think I
space.
got a flyer
Yeah.
about it, because I am within walking distance.
Yeah, I mean, in the group I was in, I don't think people were very happy about it, but that was my area, but,
Well, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just a point of order. Just so we're clear, the town's not retroactively going in to change people's things, houses against their will. People do have a means to, if they're unhappy with the zoning, the way to go about that is to go to the planning meeting, go to the zoning meeting. I just don't want to make this claim like the town's going in, changing up neighborhoods against people's will. It's, yeah, so.
Yeah. Well,
okay,
think
I that's what I'm unclear on, so I'm glad you're clarifying that, but I think, I know, zoning does change.
Yeah.
I don't personally feel that I have much say about what will happen.
I mean, outside of what you own, you probably don't. I
Oh,
mean, if
right,
somebody,
that's what I'm saying, in
well, if you live,
neighborhood.
yes, but
Yeah.
but you don't own the neighborhood. You
No,
own your
no.
property in the neighborhood.
Right,
If everyone else
exactly.
wants to paint their house pink, you just have to live with everyone's house
No,
being pink.
I understand that, but I think there's a just, when you, I just think that it seems very potentially disruptive of the feel of all of our neighborhoods. Each one will change differently, and it's going to be a big change, and I think people need to think about it and decide if they want it. And
Yeah.
so how to make it maybe more appealing, and not put too much, more stress on our resources by increasing densities in certain areas.
I do think you have to go to the planning board, because they've been talking about this for quite some time, and I think, as Brian said, the way to provide your input is go to the planning board and, have your people in your neighborhood who aren't supportive and go, and people, they'll respond, they're representing us.
Yeah.
The planning board, we elect them.
Sure.
They're representing us, and so if they hear from half the town, no, we don't like this, then they might say, well, maybe this isn't a good idea. I mean, I think I know the point of the neighborhood meeting was specifically to say, what do people want?
Right, that's right, that was the first
Yeah.
neighborhood meeting
Yeah.
and for my,
Yeah.
that I attended.
But we can still have Bart and Jeff give us some update, in the future, next meeting, so, no, that's good. All right, energy environment, George is not here. Riverfront advisory, we just talked about, there'll be a expansion and we'll get a new rep future meeting. School liaison, Emma, you're graduating. Woo!
Yay.
Congratulations.
2 months, 2 months. Spring's coming around, so we've been doing some planning for the upcoming few months. We have Newmarket Cares Day happening. Ellen and I talked a little bit about that. The environmental team has planted seeds in our 9th grade social studies room, and they're doing really well. They sprouted really fast over February vacation, and we were able to get in and water them. And we are going to donate all of the seedlings to the garden club at the elementary school. So I'm not sure who runs it right now. It's bounced around between a few teachers, but it's a great opportunity for the elementary school students to get an idea of like gardening and interact. And it's in the back of the school, so it's right there. And so we're going to donate. We have a lot of lettuce, a lot of peppers, a few different types of flowers and stuff like that, and they're all doing really well, some broccoli and stuff like that. So that's something we're excited about. And then another thing that we're doing is planning some roadside cleanups. We've done a few in the past. We have one, I think, April 10th this year. So that's just a way for probably about 40 to 30 students just to kind of go around to different roads and just pick up trash that we see on the side of the road for about an hour or so. And then for Earth Day, we're collaborating with the student council and we're having a Spirit Week that week. So that day we're going to have everybody wear green and blue throughout the school as a Spirit Week, kind of just nodding our heads towards that. And then that day we're also doing bike/walk to school day that day. It's not the national day, but I think that happens over a lot of AP testing in May and stuff like that. So we're going to have it happen that day. And we're ordering some stuffed animals that are made from recycled material and everything like that, and having like gift baskets to kind of build the incentive towards that, and have people participate. So yeah.
Nice.
Busy.
Yeah.
Do you think the club will have an exhibit at TurtleFest? Do you think someone
Yeah,
might
definitely.
wanna
I
do
can
it?
make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah,
We'll do
definitely.
an exhibit again. And if you can get a rain barrel as a raffle, that would be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I just texted my teacher, so that I can definitely get that info to you as soon as
That's
possible.
cool. That'd be great. Nice. Well, you'll think you'll be able to come to the April meeting. We'll see you one more time.
Yeah,
at least,
definitely.
And will there be a new liaison?
Yeah, I'm gonna we have a meeting tomorrow actually, so I'm gonna ask a few people. I think a couple people are interested. But yeah,
Great.
I'll try my best to make sure.
No,
there's
yeah. It's been nice to have you, and I think it's a nice connection. Yeah, very good. All right, any other updates? Snow's melting. Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a random thing I saw in NPR, but apparently there have been some progress in new types of solar panels where it's just literally you plug it in. Like you plug it into an outside wall socket and it brings power in. There are currently some people are looking at it. There's since solar panels have traditionally been on people's roofs, there's a lot of regulations. So a lot of states, including New Hampshire, are looking at opening it up so people can have these. Ideally, you just stick it in, you plug it in, you hang it off your wall, both the side of your wall, on your porch or something. But that might just be something to keep an eye on.
Maybe the Energy Environment Committee can get those. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be so nice to have that kind of thing. Very cool. Anything else? Awesome. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second, first and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I-
Thank you.